Welcome! Another day learning about edible flowers. This is part 2, and honestly guys, I'm going to have to do a part 3, but I'll give you a break and we won't do it next week. So glad you're here. This is Teaching Tuesday, and we're going to be delving into the wonderful, beautiful world of God's edible flowers. And first I want you to introduce you to one of my dear friends who's here today as my helper and to enjoy a wild food lunch with me. And this is Jenny Hannafin. So can you show them what you just made and tell them how you did it real quick?
Oh yes, so I went ahead and pressed some flowers that are edible into this paper here. The earth is full of the goodness of the Lord, Psalms 33:5. And as you can see, I've made conglomerations of multiple flowers together.
They're all edible flowers. And the key is to do what?
Is to take out the stamen or the pistil inside the middle and pull that out, and then go ahead just with the petals because they make them brown when you do that this way to maintain its color.
Yeah, this will last for many months like this. So I gave you the poster, so print it out and get out your edible flowers, find them, have your kids help you find them, and then you can make these for your memory work. The earth is full of the goodness of the Lord, and I don't know of anything that shows that more than the flowers. They're fleeting and beautiful, but they have so much significance. All right, so what we do for herbing around, this makes a nice fan, is I'm going to have you doing this, okay? So hold that for me. So I found this huge burdock. This is a second-year plant, and it's setting up its seed stalk. It's quite tall, and it'll be making its flowers. And the flowers of burdock, honestly, believe it or not, are edible if you get them early enough. And they haven't actually shown the flowers yet. But what I'm doing with these now, and Jenny's going to be working on it over at the table, is she's going to snap off the petioles like this, only if they're flexible and meristematic. Some of these taller ones are very hard and woody, so you want to get the ones off the side like that looks. These aren't very juicy. All right, this being the second-year plant, the inside of this stalk, remember I told you about this when I was in New York with Wildman Steve Brill, is like a really tasty artichoke. So that's another thing you can do is just kind of get down to this, and we can eat this for lunch as well. Okay, so, and I'll give you some more petioles that you can take see these nice fat ones? Look at the difference. Okay, so these big fat ones are super tasty, and we're going to be marinating these for pickling. And so see how you want to just take off this outer fibrousness. You can use your nails even just to get them off. Look at that, Jen. Do you see that? So first I would just get a bucket full and have the leaves on one side because I'm going to save those for burns. Nothing better than that. And we've done a whole class on this, so I'm not going to get into the details. I was just so excited to find this plant today. I'm going to take that off just so it's not in my way while I'm teaching. All right, first of all, I want to say welcome to all of you guys, the new guys. I don't know how many we have, but I think it's like maybe 215, or I'm not sure, but it's exciting. And this week alone, Emily Jewell and Kitty Rosati and Jackie Harley, Julie Archer, Martha Kincaid, Kimberly Fenney, and Peyton Johnson have joined us. So welcome, guys. I hope you enjoy this. And if you want to find any of the crossword puzzles or any of the memory work or any of the old classes or class reviews, it's all in the archives in Wild Blessings with Holly Drake. Okay, so then the next thing we always do is, I'm going to tell you all, if you comment, I'll be giving you a rose roller bottle of rose oil from Young Living, and so that is a very valuable, precious gift. So make sure you comment, let me know you're there. And you can ask questions, you can share pictures. I'll be asking some questions further on that you might want to answer. And if you do, all of your names get put into the raffle generator, and then you could possibly win the roller, the rose roller, which is a really precious, valuable gift. This week, the winner from last week's commenting on the edible flowers part 1 was Charlotte Council. So congratulations, Charlotte. And we do have a wild edible Forage to Feast coming up on July the 16th, which is a Friday morning. So I hope you can make that, Charlotte. And there will be no charge to you. There will be only 5 people that will be attending. So anyone who signs up first will be the ones who come. And I'll let you know the details on our Facebook page. Okay, so that's exciting. She's herbing around, and now we're going to have tea time. And I wanted to show you that I went ahead and made my Elderflower Champagne, and that's pretty exciting. And but it's not really ready yet. However, I wanted to show you that when you burp it, it makes a lot of noise. So I hope it doesn't go in my face. Ooh. So it's not ready yet, so I'm not going to serve it, but in a couple of weeks we can sample it for one of our drinks. I'm putting this into, I'm pretty excited, into a Kilwins plastic bucket with a lid tightly on top, and that way if they explode, which it's probably likely they will, that'll all be contained inside of that bucket rather than all over my kitchen or the ceiling or wherever I have them.
What? Wait a minute. You're saying it's likely they will explode?
The champagne is kind of fuzzy and fizzy and explosive. So I've never made it before, and this is kind of, it was exciting. It's been on my bucket list. So what we will have is my Elderberry Sparkle, and so elderflowers are still out, free for the knowing and the picking. And so I'll give some of this to Jenny, and Jenny, can you give some of that to Jason too? And then I'll pour some for myself. Jenny has a beautiful farm here in Todd. And what kind of animals are on your farm?
We have Angora goats, and we have sheep, which are the baby doll sheep, which I do fiber on both of those. We have donkeys and doves. We have chickens.
Donkeys and doves.
I want a mixture. Chickens and bees, and I think I'm missing one. But, well, we do have our dogs, our Carnations, which are for our predator animals in the area.
And cats.
And cats, yes, we do. On a farm, you will always have mice, and so the natural predator for mice are either cats or snakes, and we prefer to have cats.
Absolutely. In fact, we have a black snake in our basement right now.
Probably, yeah.
It's probably eating the mice, but
Yeah.
still, it's a little creepy. Anyway, so she's just a delight to me, and I'm glad you're here.
Okay, I'm glad to be here too.
All right, so then our cooking demonstration, we're going to do, you can help me with this too. So what I'm going to do, and Jace, if you want to turn the camera over so that you can see over at the stove, we're having for lunch, I'm making pupusas with cardito, and here's the cardito sauce, which was made with all kinds of wild edible plants, which is going to be in our slideshow, so you'll see that in a minute. But over here at the stove, I'm going to go ahead and turn on my oven like that or the pan until it gets hot. I'm going to get some paper towel out so I can drain them. And then if you could get the clippers over there, and I want the Queen Anne's lace on its petiole so that it can actually be used as a handle when you're cooking them. So we'll put the finished ones on top of that. And I like to use coconut oil or sunflower oil. So I think what I'm going to do today is, because I don't really want the coconut flavor, I'm going to use a little bit of sunflower oil. So to the sunflower oil, because I want our chips to have a Mexican flavor, because we're having a Mexican lunch, I thought I would just add to this some salt, and I'll let you do this, some salt and some cumin, a little bit of chili powder, and some, oh no, this is the cumin, this is oregano. So these flavors together into here, just, I just kind of sprinkle them in like that. Do you see what I just did? And make sure you get a lot of good salt. Then you're going to take these flowers and make sure that when you collect wild edible flowers, you don't collect them next to a roadside or where you're going to have gas emissions. And so this is Queen Anne's lace, which we're going to talk about in detail when we get onto the slideshow. It is an amazing gift from God. And actually all cultivated carrots came from Daucus carota, which is the wild carrot. And so what I would do is I would take these and cut them off like that. And when this is hot, actually let's go ahead and add these in so I can show everybody how to do it. That was the chili powder. And this is the cumin. And you can do this with cinnamon sugar if you're looking for kind of a sweet flavor. I can't remember which ones I put in. Anyway, then you're going to just take like a wooden spoon and just stir this around. And when that oil gets nice and hot, then you're going to take the flour umbel and make sure that it has, now not all Queen Anne's lace have the little red dot in the middle, but the queen has hairy legs. So make sure this is not poison hemlock, and we're going to go over during the slideshow the difference between the two. They come out at the same time and they tend to often be near each other. Poison hemlock is so poisonous. So make sure that you have this amazing hairy leg, and sometimes the flowers have a red spot in the middle and the poison hemlock doesn't, and the poison hemlock has little satellite umbels that come out like stars, whereas these stay together like that. Okay, so now that the oil's kind of hot, do you hear it sizzling? You just hold it in for a bit. And like I said, you can use it with sugar if you prefer, a sweet treat for dessert afterwards, or you can fritter these, which is kind of fun too, where you would put them into a batter or a tempura batter and then dip the blossom into that before putting it into the hot oil, and that can be seasoned as well. So you just want to do it until they're nice and crispy and not burned. Yeah, so then we'll put it there to let it dry out. And see how nice that made it as a little handle to do this with. Have you done these before?
No.
No? Okay.
I can smell it.
Yeah, well it has a carrot flavor. So the leaves taste like carrot, of course the root tastes like carrot, and the flowers taste like carrot. So if I were to use these flowers in our cordita sauce or whatever, I would just simply pull them off and just sprinkle them on like confetti on the top. And you're adding so much nutrition, so much vitamin K and vitamin A, antioxidants, just wonderful. This is good stuff. Just make sure it's the queen with the hairy legs. All right, so I'm going to just leave this alone and you're going to go ahead and make them. All right. So, are you ready? No? Oh, you're turning it back to me. Okay. Okay. So before we go over to the slideshow, I wanted to share with you some of my meditations about flowers this week. I am so grateful for black-eyed Susans. They are one of my absolute favorites. And I just, amazing the abundance that they're all over my mountain. They're just all over the high country, and they just make me happy. They, in the language of flowers, they stand for justice, actually. But what if all of the flowers, like all of the flowers, were just black-eyed Susans? I mean, would not that be boring? Or what if they were all daisies? As much as I love daisies, and wait till you hear the things you can do with outside daisies, it's amazing. The gifts that each one of these flowers has to offer is unsurpassable beauty and unsurpassable work. And even the little shy violet that grows on the forest floor in the early spring to herald spring has so much to offer as far as food and medicine and gifts and beauty. So when I think of the artistry that God put in every single one of his flowers, they all have unsurpassable work, and they're all absolutely beautiful. So it made me think about us. So if we were flowers in God's garden, which one would you be? So if you could comment and tell me which one you think you are, or you'd like to think of yourself as, that would be really fun. But I wanted to say that diversity is so important. There's many colors, many aromas, many different textures, many different sizes and shapes, many different functions, but they all are valuable, and they're all beautiful, and they're all made and created by God. So in the same way, I don't want to be political, but I am going to claim this, that there is one race and many colors. And praise God for every color. And praise God for each one of us. Each one of us have unsurpassable worth. And we were worth God giving his very own self for his own son so that we could be redeemed back to his heart of love. So I just wanted to share that. That's been something that's been on my heart. And as I spent time with these flowers and delving deep, it's just been something that has just been blinging out to me, just like flowers bling out from the green wallpaper. So that is just my thoughts on that, and I'm going to join you now over at my computer and share with you some of my favorite summer flowers. So let's go over there now. All right, got my drink. You can always add in more oil if you need it. Okay. Oh, beautiful. Yeah, right in front. Thank you so much. You're the best. Okay, we ready?
Yes, and you'll just use that.
Okay. I spent a lot of time on this slideshow, and then I got rid of maybe 50 flowers because it was just too long. You can have a seat at the table if you want, hon.
Yeah, come on here.
All right, so this is part 2 on summer. The earth is full of the goodness of the Lord, and flowers are one of the most vibrant reminders of his glory. His artistry, they're fragile and fleeting, full of colors and aromas, with awe-inspiring array of shapes and sizes. They look so good, and some of them are actually edible. This here is a handout that I have for my Patreon members, but it is such an important handout that I've decided to give it to all of you guys. I so appreciate anyone who wants to support me financially, but this is a free class, and I really want you to have this free handout. So I will have it up at Wild Blessings with Holly Drake, and I would love for you to print it out and put this. I would actually laminate it and keep it as something as your bucket list, or you could just not laminate it and check off the ones that you've identified and eaten. And we talked last week about the language of flowers, and the Victorians used flowers as a secret language to express emotions or to convey messages. Each flower has its own signature, and even further, the variations of the colors within the species can relate a varying range of emotion, which is kind of fun. So as we go over these flowers in the presentation, many times I will tell you what the language of love or flower is, or what that language it speaks. A flower clock is something that we'll get into in a different class, but this is pretty fascinating. How can you tell time without the use of a clock? Just look in the garden and the flowers will tell you. The flowers in your garden are not only there to show off their fancy blooms and colors, they can actually be so useful for actually telling time. The different opening times of flowers not only tell us what time of day it is, but their behavior can also inform us about the weather as a barometer. So we'll probably learn about that in a future class because it's so fascinating. And we talked about creative ways to preserve and use flowers. And then here's my friend Mayo came over for dinner on Friday night to join Jason and I, and no one ever comes over to my house to eat without having to cook something, so I had him ice this cake with a coconut milk icing, and it's a gluten-free cake, and then he just made like confetti out of edible flowers on top. And then I was recommending fully that you guys get your loupes going, and if you haven't purchased one, please do. Take the time to appreciate the artistry in the deep inner recesses of each flower, looking at things that few ever really truly get to appreciate or ever even see. A loupe gives the ordinary person the heightened visual sensitivity of the artist, the writer, the scientist. Close observation mixed with wonder is essential for the development of an artist, a scientist, a writer, as well as a mathematician, a humorist, an inventor, and more. And the more I wonder, the more I love.
You know, I'm sorry, but I have to ask and interject a question I think probably many people have. You get a loupe, one side is bigger than the other. There's a large end and a small end. Which end do you put up close to your eye?
That's a really good question. So the large end you put up to your eye, and you close the other eye, and then with one of your hands, you're holding it obviously with the large side to your eyeball, and then with your other hand, you hold the flower and bring it up until it is in complete focus, and just be amazed. And one thing that some people do is they start out with a 3 times magnification. They look at the flower, and then a 5 times magnification, and then a 10 times magnification, and you can even get higher. But it's really amazing how things that you could not see at 3 times magnification pop out and show you even more of God's artistry hidden in plain view. So get yourself a loupe. And then this was fascinating. We talked last week about how buds are like a forerunner to the flower, their necessary part, and many of the buds are actually edible. Echinacea buds are not edible, but next to my sit spot, I have some echinacea growing, and I watch this every single day, and it's so fascinating. The picture in the middle I took yesterday morning. Look at how the ray flowers are coming out from the buds on the outside circumference. And look at that little tiny spider, isn't he cute? So those ray flowers are going to be these beautiful pink ray flowers on the right pretty soon. So I'm not going to miss that. I love watching children grow, and I love watching plants grow in all of their life cycles. So last week we went into detail about a lot of spring flowers. I didn't get to finish them all, so here we go. The earth laughs and flowers. This is my sit spot, and my favorite one right now, and these are irises. They are not edible, but look how happy they are. And Max, yes, he's happy. He's smiling. Peonies, I missed this. It's so funny. I went on up to New York, as you know, and while I was gone, the peonies bloomed, and when I came back, there weren't any for me to try. So I've never actually eaten them, but I do know that they are edible. So let me tell you what I've learned about them. They represent honor and riches. In China, the fallen petals are parboiled and sweetened as a tea time delicacy. Peony water was used for drinking in the Middle Ages. And you can add peony petals for your summer salad, or try floating them in punches or lemonades. So if you've ever eaten one, let me know. I would be very curious. I'll have to find out next year. This is wood sorrel, and these are so tasty. The flowers are super small. They're yellow. So don't forget the whole plant is edible. So the seed pods are like okra. They explode when you touch them. The flower, the leaves themselves fold on themselves into perfect hearts, and they were the shamrock that St. Patrick's Day was, St. Patrick was enamored with, and so that's what shamrock came from, not from red clover. Oh, I got to go back to that. So the language of flowers for wood sorrel is wit ill-timed. Okay. So that could be interesting. You give those to somebody as a gift, and then they think, oh, you don't think I'm funny. All right, the elderflowers we just spent a whole class on June the 15th, I think. And then I also just did an entire presentation for my Patreon members about all of the different preparations I did with elderflowers. So if you are on Patreon, check that out. It took a lot of work to prepare, so I hope you enjoy it and that you get the recipes and you try these things yourself, because they're out now for the knowing and the picking, but they won't be for long. If you don't have anywhere you live, then just go to a higher elevation and you'll find some to gather. Don't forget, if you don't collect them, they will go to berries, and that's another wonderful destination. Oh, I wanted to show you this on the right. This is my champagne. And do you see how much neck room I gave that? Because I really don't want it to explode. Now, comfrey is an interesting, amazing plant, and it has a lot of controversy right now. Symphytum officinale is the name, its botanical name. It's been used for thousands and thousands of years for food and medicine. Goats love it. Do you have any on your farm? No? Oh my gosh, I'll give you some. You can't have enough. Honestly, you cannot have enough. So I remember I was over at the Blackburn's Gardens, at the Beatitude Gardens, and they had so much comfrey, and I was just thinking, oh, you poor guys, you know, why would you do such a thing like that? But they did it on purpose, and the reason why is you can take these leaves and the whole stalk and the flowers and throw them into a 5-gallon bucket with water and let it sit for a couple of weeks, and it will smell like the worst manure you've ever smelled, and it becomes so nutrient dense and so amazing for your plants that's why they were planting comfrey. They wanted it to take over and rule, because it is so amazing for plants. So here's my thought. If you research comfrey with all of its benefits, it also, people will say it can be toxic, but if it's so powerful for fertilizing your soil, I know we're not plants, but I wonder, with all those vitamins and minerals going into your compost liquid, what would that do to repair our bodies and heal ourselves? It's also called knit bone because this is the most powerful plant you can use for when you have broken a bone, to make a poultice with it, whatever, once you've got it set where you want it. It causes cell reproduction so quickly that it proliferates to strengthen that bone, that your bone, if you don't have it set properly, will actually fix so much harder so quickly that you'll think, oh my gosh, I make sure you do this right. And also, you don't want to use it over a cut until you've got all of the infection out, because it will close up that cut so quickly you can almost watch it close. It's incredible. But I love the flowers, and I could talk about comfrey for a very long time. The flowers are so tasty, and they are beautiful, and they make a beautiful botanical bling for garnishing or just putting it in your salad. Comfrey makes me happy. So these are pink primrose. I'm only putting this here because I have millions of them. I want you to take some home, Jenny, because I've got so many. And they're edible, and they're beautiful, and they just literally have taken over. So I've got literally millions of them all over. They've already bloomed. So you would need to just get them by their roots or get the seeds, and you can spread them on your land. Okay, then yucca. So I've been spending a lot of time on yucca. We talked about this quite a bit last week. And I made stuffed yucca blossoms for a birthday party I went to on Thursday. I started with the sumac berries that I had saved from last year. I put them into a coffee grinder, and then I put them into this sieve to use a wooden pounder to get the red flakes, which is the lemony folic acid, into the bowl. And then I mixed that in with some what did I use? Cream cheese, some onion, and a little bit of jalapeno. And then I took the stamens and the pistils, which I had told you last week not to eat, but they actually are very tasty if you cook them, and they give you a crunch factor. I added that to that cream cheese mixture, and you can see all of that on the right. And there's the blossoms. And then I just had some egg and gluten-free flour, and I fried them up into these, I put them into the petals like a stuffed blossom, and then fried them in coconut oil, and they were so good. I also, with yucca this week, I made cordito, which is a Honduran cabbage with the blossoms. And not only was that in there, but so was red blossoms, red clover blossoms, there was rose petals, there was lamb's quarter leaves, some chilies. I also put a lot of daylily in there, and I made this amazing fermented cabbage, which went with our pupusas. Hostas are amazing. And so, let me go back to these as well. So with these yuccas, you can fry them, boil them, eat them raw. If you fry them, what I learned, and I can't wait to try this, is you take 5 or 6 of the blossoms and you stack them on top of each other, and then you put them into a tempura batter and then fry them up as a group like that. And it has an amazing crunch. What I love about yucca flowers is they have so much texture to them. They can be boiled like we did last week in class and used as a fettuccine alfredo. So that's a totally gluten-free noodle. Do you have any of these on your farm?
We do.
Okay, you can't have enough yucca. And I also have a comment. I have to apologize. I thought that this yucca plant was the same as cassava or cassava. How do you pronounce that?
Cassava.
Cassava. Cassava is yucca, Y-U-C-A, and it's a completely different plant. And the root from the yucca is what you eat. And the root from this yucca, I have no idea what you can do with, but I'm going to keep researching it. And the way I learn is just by doing it.
Yucca is cassava flour, which is high in carbohydrates and no gluten. And it's very good to fry like tortillas, and it has a very stringy kind of texture after you cook it. So it gives that gluten feeling.
Wow.
Cassava.
That's so exciting. Yeah, so that's not the same. So I was wrong, and I apologize. Okay, then hostas. Remember we talked about these early shoots when they come up, there's just nothing like them. So my favorite way to eat hostas are when they are early spring, when they come up as very tightly coiled shoots. Okay, so that's the best. But you can eat these leaves too. And I love to spread them with cream cheese and put whatever I want to eat inside of that and roll it up like a tortilla. But here we're talking about flowers, and the flowers here of hostas are all edible as well, and they make beautiful garnish. I made a wild tabbouleh last Thursday as well for the party, and you can see on the right that I've garnished with the hosta flowers. There's a reason why the deer eat hosta. They're super nutritious and super sweet and super tasty. They're like a really yummy lettuce. Don't forget though that the leaves need to be younger to be really that yummy. So you want to make sure too that you get them where dogs haven't been spraying. Allium blossoms. Oh, the gift of allium is so amazing. There's so many kinds. There's leeks and onions and garlics. There's over 400 alliums, including all of those chives and ramps and shallots. They have a spherical shape and their colors vary from everything from white, pink, blue, purple, and yellow. All of their parts are edible, but the flowers and the leaves are preferred, and their flavors are actually stronger in the flowers and the seeds than they are in the bulbs, which is amazing. If it smells like a garlic or an onion, then it's in the allium family. There's some poisonous lookalikes, and they do not smell like garlic or onion. So make sure that if you think that you've got an allium, if it doesn't smell like onion or garlic, then throw it out. They must both have that aroma. One way to preserve that amazing gift of the garlic or the wild onion is to make compound butters and freeze them, which we did a class on a couple weeks ago, well, months ago. Daylilies are out right now, and the language of flowers for them is forgetting worries. And I love that because of the scripture here where it says, consider the lilies, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin, nor not even Solomon in all of his glory clothed himself like one of these. But if God so clothes the grass in the field, how much more will he clothe you, O men of little faith? Jesus knows our tendency to worry, and his antidote is to spend time observing in nature his handiwork and remembering whose we are. Thankfulness will fill your heart and put problems in perspective, because we are never alone. The daylily is Hemerocalis species, and the whole plant is edible. In the Encyclopedia of Edible Plants, Dr. Francois Copeland, he says Lilium bulbs and Hemerocalis flowers are commonly sold as food on Eastern Asian markets. And he has eaten the pollen, and he has never suffered any wrong. So this is an amazing plant. The flowers bloom for only one day. That's why they're called day lilies. And Hemerocalis means beauty and day. So some cultivars may have more than one flowering period, which is kind of cool. But I like to deadhead the ones that have already bloomed, and then there's quite a few buds that are on there. The buds are also very tasty, and so are the roots. Where flowers bloom, so does hope. That's a really cool thought. You know, why is that? What are these flowers representing? Remember last week we talked about how the flower is not the end all, it's the tractor to get the pollination process going so that it can make the end, which is bringing about seeds and recreating new life. And so when you see a flower, it's just part of the process, but it does bring so much hope and so much joy. Sweet woodruff. Now these come up earlier in the spring, and I got this, I have a ton of this in my yard, but I got them from St. John's Church years and years ago, maybe a dozen years ago. And the gardener Jason was painting the church, and a gardener there was taking out a lot of sweet woodruff out of their garden because it literally does take over. But let me tell you some things about sweet woodruff to help you appreciate this plant. Do you have any of this? Okay, you need to take some home. It's amazing. Make a note of what you want to take home because I have all these things. All right, so the language of flowers for sweet woodruff, Galium odoratum, is prosperity. Sweet woodruff Gallium odoratum, this delicate flower has a very interesting flavor. It is sweet with a hint of nutty vanilla flavor. It's got such a beautiful fresh fragrance. You can use them as garnish. You can toss them in salads or use them to decorate cakes and sweets. Some flowers are really peppery and you don't want to put on a cake or for sweets, but this would be the perfect one for decorating something sweet. One of the chemicals that gives it its sweet smell is coumarin. So be careful, because if you take a lot of coumarin in large quantities, it reduces your blood's ability to clot. So don't take too many. But the flavor is amazing, and they are delicious. So here's the sweet woodruff prosperity cake. I didn't make this. I found this on the web along with this poem. Money, money, come to me in abundance 3 times 3. May I be enriched in the best of ways, harming none on its way. This I accept, so note it be, bring me money 3 times 3. And that goes with sweet woodruff. Okay, look at the shadow of the daisy on Max's tongue. This daisy, these wild daisies are just literally carpeting these mountains. In the language of flowers, the daisy equals innocence. So you're only going to want to use the flower petals because that inner part is really, really bitter and disgusting. So if you're going to use it for decorating, I would just take the flowers off, the petals, the ray petals, and throw them into your salad or put on top as confetti. But let me tell you about what it does. So daisy actually packs one heck of a medicinal punch. So what you might want to do is grab a bunch of them and dry them, get them by the long stems and bundle them up with a rubber band and then hang them to dry. And then the next time you have an allergic attack, make a tea out of the dried daisy plant, the whole thing, leaves and all, and you'll be amazed at how it will dry up your sinuses and open them up because they're very astringent. And just for you women, it also makes an amazing douche, because it's antifungal. So it has amazing qualities. Sometimes the most common thing that we're so used to seeing has so much to offer, like the dandelion. I think God makes sure that it's everywhere because he knows how much we need it. Okay, so those were spring, and now we're into summer. Red clover, Trifolium pratense, is one of my absolute favorites. It's in the Fabaceae family, and let me just read to you about some of its medicinal gifts. It is a great detoxifier, helping our bodies to rid themselves of chemicals, of heavy metals, and other toxins. It's a cancer fighter, anti-inflammatory. It's great for heart health. Red clover is also known to improve your blood pressure and to increase HDL levels, or the good cholesterol. Red clover also strengthens bone density, and the isoflavones in red clover have estrogen-like effects and can be helpful with menopause symptoms like hot flashes. It's also a natural blood thinner, so you don't want to drink or eat this plant if you're on synthetic blood thinners, so be careful. Anyway, I could go on and on. You can see I've made fritters on the right-hand side. Max is eyeing them. Drinking the tea is probably the best way to get these healing properties, but eating them fresh is also good medicine. So here's some of my apprentices years ago. Some of them are married with children right now, which is kind of freaky, but this is over at Peaceful Acres Field, and they're just gathering hundreds and hundreds of red clover, and also they're studying. And so what I would do with my students is I would have them draw pictures of the flower, because when you can draw something, you really see it. And so there's a scripture for that. It says, "Great are the works of the Lord. They are studied by all who delight in them." And these girls certainly do delight in God's handiwork. This is fascinating. Now that you see how helpful red clover is, you may wish to buy a pound for a daily tea since it is on sale. It was $41.99, and now it's only $33.99. That's a good savings for some serious medicine. Or you could just collect it for free. So Bethany and I made a ton of fritters with red clover. Then we fed about 50 campers at Cherokee Cove. Okay, so borage. The language of flowers for borage is courage. It's such a beautiful, beautiful flower. This is one you've got to look at with a jeweler's loupe for sure. It's beautiful. It tastes like cucumber. It has a long history of medicinal and culinary use. It is a source of GLA, which is gamma linoleic acids. And the sweet blossoms and the leaves have that taste of cucumber. The leaves are kind of fuzzy, and I prefer to only use those in vinegars. You can garnish with them or freeze them in ice cubes. Is a wonderful way to keep borage around all winter. Okay, and here's our plant for today, which we're going to eat for lunch. And you can see the shadows. I'm obsessed with knowing plants by their shadows, but there's the Queen Anne's lace leaf shadow, and there's the Queen Anne's lace in the middle with a drop of blood, and there's the bird nest of seeds. And so the flower clusters can be French fried for a carrot flavored treat, which is what we just did. And the aromatic seeds are good for flavoring. Like my mentor, Linda Runyon, used them as a salt substitute. The dried roasted roots can be ground into a powder and used as a coffee substitute. You can make jelly out of the Queen Anne's lace, which, by the way, that was a gift I got for my birthday from my dear friend Brooke Brown. Thank you so much, Brooke. She made a jelly, kind of a carrot-tasting jelly out of the flowers. All right. So the red drop, it's called Queen Anne's lace because the queen was supposedly good, adept at making lace, at tatting lace, and she pricked her finger, and a drop of blood went in the center of the umbel. So we talked about poison hemlock being a similar look-alike to Queen Anne's lace. There's the poison hemlock on the left, and there's Queen Anne's lace on the right. Do you see the satellites of the Queen Anne's lace, of the poison hemlock on the left, come up individually from the axil, as the Queen Anne's lace are much more compound and closer together. But the best way to tell the difference are the stems. So the poison hemlock has a slick as snot stem, and the Queen Anne's lace has hairy legs. So that's so important. And we're going to do a whole class on poisonous plants. But I wanted you to know that now, because I was over at a farm nearby in the woods, and there was so much poison hemlock, it was a little alarming. And so I just figured I would just give you a quick little heads up on this one, because this will literally kill you. Okay, snapdragons are gorgeous. Antirrhinum majus. These are gorgeous edible flowers. Their names are called snapdragons because their face kind of resembles the face of a dragon, and that it opens and closes its mouth when you squeeze it laterally. They have a very bitter taste. So because it's edible doesn't mean it's palatable. It's just, good to know it won't kill you, and it's great for decorating. But this would be a garnish I probably wouldn't want to eat. Chicory. Chicoryum itibus, and this is the language of flowers is frugality. Look at the gorgeousness of God's handiwork on these beautiful stamens. So amazing. Okay, so interesting thing about chicories is that there are many varieties. They're good for salad leaves, for the salads. You can make blanch them for the buds, make chickens. The roots, which are baked and ground, are a coffee substitute, and I drink them all the time. And it's been used as a sweetener because there's an inulin in the chicory root. So it's a great option to use chicory sugar for if you have diabetes. You can eat the flowers and the bud or pickle the buds. And they tend to open up at around 7 in the morning and close at 2. Evening primrose, Oenothera biensis, lives for 2 years, and the first year plant is just a rosette, and then the second year it sends up this very, very tall, beautiful flower stalk. The buds are edible, the flowers are delicious. They come out at 8 o'clock at night, so when we talk about the flower clocks, this one would be one that opens at 8. It tends to stay open all night, and then it closes in the morning, but then another one's open. So during the it's just an amazing gift. This plant has so much to say. We will do an entire hour on it in the future. Carnations, dianthus, have a very spicy flavor. They can be steeped in wine. You can make candy out of them. Use them for cake decorations. They're super sweet petals. So if you have any carnations, eat them or put them in your into your into ice cube tray. They have kind of like a clove-like or a nutmeg-like flavor. They're just shocking, and they're so beautiful. Hollyhocks, the language of flowers for, oh, I'm sorry, with carnations, the language of flowers is I will never forget you. And they do have such a pungent, beautiful aroma as well. If a flower has a strong, beautiful aroma, it tends to have a sweet taste as well. Hollyhock are so delicious. They're so tasty. These are in the Alcea family, related to mallow or marshmallow. So, in the language of flowers, hollyhock is fertility and fruitfulness. They look so beautiful for decorations, but their taste is kind of bland. But they make really good stuffing. So you can stuff these like you would a squash blossom. So you can do that, or just use them for garnishing. In Egypt, the root was cultivated as a starch. So they would use the starch of the root. Okay. In the language of flowers, mallow equals mildness. They're super mucilaginous, and the leaves are in particular, but so are the flowers, and they can be used as a vegetable or as a garnish. The unripe fruits are called, you can see one right there. Of course, you can't see what I'm pointing at, but they taste, Linda called them cheese wheels, and they will bloom from June to September. And Jenny, I didn't know you were going to be here when I put this in here, but when Michaela was here years ago, we made actual marshmallow out of the marshmallow root. And that was a really amazing experience. I had never tried that before. And look at that, guys. That is, the original marshmallow comes from this plant, from the root. And so we made s'mores, as you do. Whew. Okay, nasturtiums. Nasturtiums, the language of flowers is patriotism. And they have a very peppery flavor. The leaves do as well, and the leaves can make a really good roll-up with some cream cheese or whatever. So use them as a tiny tortilla. They're called nasturtium bundles. The flowers are fabulous in salads. They just have such a good crunch, and they're delicious. They represent victory in battle and conquest. Black-eyed Susans. So here I am on my mountainside just gathering tons of black-eyed Susans. They symbolize justice. And once again, the flowers are edible, but you would not want to eat that center section because it's super, super bitter. This is a new one for me, Canadian Honewort and Cryptotania canadensis. And this is all over the woods, and I'm so excited about it because I just learned about this from Wildman Steve Brill. And so let me just read to you what I learned. It grows all over the eastern 2/3 of North America. It's a member of the carrot family, which is where we get the Queen Anne's lace, but we also get poison hemlock in the carrot family. So it's a dangerous family. It can be found growing along streams and creeks or in low, wet ground. The entire plant is edible, cooked, root to flowers. It flowers from May to August, and the blossoms are quite small, as you can see. It's called wild chervil. The roots are usually boiled in salted water and served with oil. Young leaves and stems are soaked in water to moderate flavor, then cooked as a pot herb. Cooked flowers are edible as well. You can add a small portion to salads for their aromatic quality. The seeds are used for flavoring, and the stems can be candied. So I guess that sounds interesting, but what's fascinating is to actually taste this. It has the most amazing flavor. So I'm going to be collecting a ton of the little seeds and drying this plant to use as a powder for just putting in my spice cabinet, because this really packs a wallop. It is amazing, and it's literally all over the place in the woods. Just make sure it's that you're harvesting 100% sure of what you've got here. Marigolds. So the language of flowers is grief. And the flower symbolizes associated with marigolds is indicated of the name Mary's gold. Marigold flowers were golden gifts offered to the Virgin Mary by the poor who could not afford to give actual gold. Marigolds were used in Mary gardens. Marigolds are symbolisms of passion and creativity. They're also known as the herb of the sun. They've been used as love charms and incorporated in wedding garlands. The use of marigolds is for the most part to add brilliant color, much like saffron threads impart a gorgeous golden hue to dishes. In fact, marigolds are sometimes referred to as poor man's saffron. Edible marigold flowers taste either mildly citrusy to subtly spicy or tangy. Whatever you think of the flower or the flavor, the flowers are indeed edible, and if nothing else, they are so beautiful to look at, a feast for the eyes. So there's a salad that I made on the right-hand side. I wouldn't eat a marigold the way we've got them in there full whole like that. I would literally take the petals out and eat them that way, but they look pretty as a garnish. Calendula is in the same family, and that has unbelievable gifts. The language of flowers for calendula is winning grace. They open up at sunrise and they close at sunset. They have a wonderful edible flower, and there again I would pull off the petals. Bee balm. Okay, the language of flowers here is clarity of thought. It is a wild oregano, so you can use this in place of oregano. It tends to grow in small colonies, so when you find one, there's going to be quite a few nearby. And they are so beautiful. So here I am collecting some. And here Mally decorated this beautiful cake on the right-hand side with, looks like she's got hosta flowers in the middle. And then look at those beautiful monarda flowers, bee balm flowers that she put on the cake. That was such a fun time. And then this is one plant that you want to get a ton of so that you can dry it for winter teas, because this is excellent for colds and flus. And it has such a sweet, delicious, surprising flavor. Kudzu. You never have to go looking for kudzu blossoms because you can smell them from 100 feet away. They have this like a grape Kool-Aid smell, or like a cheap bubblegum, grape bubblegum. It's just a really sickening sweet grape smell. So these are great to make into like a grape jelly. And we're going to do an entire class on kudzu because this is the plant that is literally eating the South. And if you can't beat it, then let's eat it. And there's over 100 ways to use kudzu. Poppies stand for imagination. And so probably because it makes you sleepy and puts you into a dream-like state, but poppy flowers are delicious, and the seeds can be used for all kinds of culinary confections and breads. And lavender is the language of flower is serenity. It's in the mint family, so it adds freshness to any recipe. I love to make herbes de Provence. Whoops, I didn't put a picture of it in there, but it's rosemary and lavender and sage and thyme and bay leaf, and you mix them all, dry them first, mix them all together, and it makes an incredible seasoning that you can purchase or you can make yourself. I also like to take those same plants and steep them or infuse them in oil, and then you can have that same flavor in a cooking oil. And then milkweed is just beginning to bloom right now, and we just did a class, a whole hour on this plant, so I won't tell you much about it, but this is probably my favorite edible plant. The flowers have such a wonderful, sugary, amazing smell, and I couldn't find a language of flowers for it, so I decided to give it my own name. So it speaks irresistibility, because you can't be in a field filled with milkweed flowers without feeling irresistibly drawn to them and feeling the love of God. Self-heal Prunella vulgaris. This is one that is out in a great abundance right now, and you want to learn about this. So go to my website. I've written a blog on this, and it has so many amazing qualities. It also doesn't have a language of flowers, so I was thinking I would call it helpful, because it is, if you've hurt yourself or you've wounded yourself, bruised yourself, cut yourself, you want this amazing plant by your side. So I've done so many things with it, and you can read about that at my blog, and I'll put that in my in the comments below. The phlox are not, this is the tall phlox. There's the creeping phlox that's short. Those are not edible. It's these tall ones that get 2 to 3 feet tall. They have a slightly spicy flavor and taste, and they're beautiful in salads. They kind of look a lot like rocket, but rocket is a mustard and phlox is not. So because rocket or Dame's rocket is a mustard, it'll have only 4 petals. Phlox has 5. And because Dame's rocket is a mustard, it will be peppery, and you wouldn't put that on baked goods or something sweet. Phlox is not a mustard, and it works great with anything sweet. So these are edible, only the tall ones, not the short creeping ones. And then the linden flowers, this is my favorite edible tree. I was just eating linden leaves this morning out at Peaceful Acres pasture, looking for the flowers. I couldn't find them. I think because the deer are always beating me to them. But boy, I'll tell you, they taste like jasmine, and they are so good. This whole tree has incredible gifts. The bees love it too. Cattail flowers, I was going to get out to the cattail swamp to show you, but I'll do a whole class on this. The flowers are below the pollen, so they self-pollinate on the same stalk. But they taste very much like artichoke hearts, and you can boil them like corn on the cob and eat them with butter, salt, and pepper. Mullein flowers are mostly medicinal. I've also done an entire class on this and written a blog on it. I'll also tag you on that as well, because this is not to be missed. It's mostly medicine. These flowers are great for earaches, to infuse in oil, and you can also put them sprinkled as just happy decorations. Geraniums are called silliness in the language of flowers. The petals in a salad make for a bright splash of silliness. My mom loved them, and my mom loved gladiolus, and these are even tastier, much tastier than hollyhocks, and you can stuff these as well. So gladiolus are also edible, but make sure that you don't get them from a floral shop where they've been sprayed, and that you can just grow them in your own garden. They're called gladiolus because they look like the swords of the gladiators. They're so delicious, but just eat the petals. And that's my mom on the right, and she was the flower woman extraordinaire. She loved her flowers. And then we're almost done. Sunflower equals appreciation. So if you appreciate someone, give them a sunflower. The flower is mostly known for its beauty or for its seeds, but you can actually eat the petals, and they taste very similar to artichokes. They have a kind of a bittersweet flavor. You can stir fry them. The leaves can be eaten as well. They're really, really, really good as microgreens when they're first growing. So I know my friend Sandy Henry sells those, and they're delicious. And then zinnias. The language of flowers for these is thoughts of absent friends and lasting affection. And these are beautiful to decorate with. And they don't really have any flavor. They're just there as eye candy. And then herbs for spices. We'll talk about that when I get back up to my counter. But the flowers of all of these spices are also edible, and some of them are even more of a packing of a punch. Like the dill flowers are even more than the dill leaves of a flavor, a very strong, strong flavor. This is pineapple sage on the right and rosemary on the left and dill in the middle. Happiness held is the seed. Happiness shared is the flower. And then I don't have time to go into autumn flowers, but there's so much to say there. So we'll do a future class on those. And I wanted to end with this thought, a magnificent rose. This is from the book Jesus Calling, and it was one of the devotionals. So I'll just read it to you. And here you can see Max's tail at my sit spot. Worship me, this is God talking, worship me in the beauty of holiness. I created beauty to declare the existence of my holy being, a magnificent rose, a hauntingly glorious sunrise, oceanic splendor. All these things were meant to proclaim my presence in the world. Most people rush past these proclamations without giving them a second thought. How precious my children are who are awed by nature's beauty. This opens them up to my holy presence. Even before you knew me personally, you responded to my creation with wonder. This is a gift, and it carries responsibility with it. Declare my glorious being to the world. The whole earth is full of my radiant beauty. Okay. Oh, gosh. So Jason wrote this down for me. Hi, Karen. I love you. Deborah Pate, Tara, Cindy Christ, Jamie Green, Jem. Hi, Jem. Bertice. Hi, B. And Stacy Shoemaker. Oh my gosh. So I love it when you guys are able to join me live. But don't forget, if you don't, all of my old classes and this class will always be on Wild Blessings with Holly Drake in the archives. Just look under topics and you'll find every one of them there. This is my 25th class, so I'm pretty excited about that. I'm so honored that you would join me. It's really kind of humbling that I get to do this with others. Okay, so I wanted to share a few more things since I'm here at my counter. This is my friend Jenny brought these with her from her garden, and her gardens are gorgeous. They're kind of English gardens. She bought some lavender, and so lavender is amazing, and the lavender essential oil. We're going to do a whole class on essential oils and why they are so important to the plant and why they are so important to us and such an incredible gift from our Creator. And then she also brought some, what is this, hon? Is this thyme?
That's oregano.
This is oregano. She brought oregano flowers, and she brought some thyme flowers, and then I'll be giving a rose essential oil in a roller bottle to someone, one of you that commented. You have until next Tuesday to watch this and comment to get into the raffle. So you don't have to comment live in order to be a part of the raffle. Okay, well, we're going to get busy making our wild lunch, and I wanted to share with you what I'm going to ask you to do for your field work for this coming week. So if you printed out your memory verse, the earth is full of the goodness of the Lord, that's on Wild Blessings. So print that out, and then you're going to want to get packing tape and get all your flowers arrayed in front of you with some scissors and your packing tape. And I like to take the packing tape and put it on a clean bowl on the lip of the bowl so that it's there ready for me, already ready to go, so I'm not constantly going back and forth to the tape. And then you're just going to put the flowers down in however design you want to do, and then put the tape on top of it and go out from the middle to the ends, and that will help it be flat. And this will literally last for many months, and it'll be a beautiful reminder of what we were learning and about God's goodness to us. So print that out on cardstock, and that'll be fun. Okay, eat wild every day. Remember, I told you if you really want to learn, you don't just listen to Holly talk, you go do it. You go do it yourself. Go find yourself a burdock second ear and have some artichoke for dinner, or take off the tender stems, the petioles, which she's been working on. Oh, look, she did right here, and start marinating them. So I'll put a recipe for marinated stems. Did you take off the stringiness? See how hard that is? Watch. See? That hurts. So this is not edible. So that goes into the compost bin. You want only the meristematic, flexible ones. See that? So anyway, so then we're going to just probably sit, and I don't knit, but I do stitch and bitch by working where we talk while we work with our hands. So there's a lot, and herbalist hands are never still. Okay, and then I'm going to ask a favor, if you all would share Wild Blessings with one person. If you think this would be a blessing to somebody in your life, just tag them. Let them know about it. Tell them it's free, and tell them that they will feel so loved to learn the things that God has provided free for our knowing and the picking. Wild riches at our feet, hidden in plain view. And it's empowering, isn't it, to learn these things. It makes you realize that we're not alone. We are deeply loved, and the one who created us is pretty darn creative. So thank you for joining me, and Jace, did you fall asleep this time? He fell asleep last week. He says I talked too much. All right. Anyway, God bless you, and I'll see you all. Oh, we are having a wild forage to feast on the 16th of July, so sign up for that if you are interested. Okay, bye.